Hello! In this video I'm going to show you how to use AntConc, a corpus linguistics freeware tool, to analyze the corpus of English in veterinary medicine, which, if you know me, you can have for free. If you don't know me, you can have it after it gets published. So I'm just going to open up AntConc. And if you would like help on installing it, or if you'd like to get more details about advanced usage, I really recommend you watch Lawrence Anthony's tutorial. But if you want to learn specifics about how to use this program to analyze the corpus of English in veterinary medicine, please watch my video. So I've just opened up the program, and I'm going to load the corpus here on File. And this is just going to use open file. I've already got my corpus by article right here. Just open that up, and the easiest way to select this is Control A and just hit enter to open it up. And there it is. It's all loaded onto here. 400 articles for us to search. Just to give you a kind of an overview, you can see what these look like. These are just plain text versions of online articles, which I have gathered from 44 different journals. So it's the standard journal structure. Almost all of these go introduction, materials and methods, results, and then discussion. Some of them have a conclusion at the end, but this is the basic pattern. With journals that don't have methods after the introduction, for example, I think Science is this way, probably Nature is too. For Nature, they're so high level, they don't have the standard format, but they put materials and methods at the end. For any journal that has materials and methods at the end, I did not include those materials and methods. Okay, so this is what all these files kind of look like. One small warning, there's a few mistakes in the transcription from the HTML file into this simple text file, but most of it went through pretty well, including the Greek letters. But you may occasionally see a question mark, and if you see that, it just means there was a problem with the transcription into simple text. Okay, so this is what we're dealing with. There's all of these things, but this is not really the way to analyze this. If you wanted to read a paper, you should just go online, right? Don't read it right here. The description of the files is first the journal's name, so this is Archives of Virology. The number means the year it was published, so 16 means 2016. And author, first author, country of origin, and then the institution. I want to just show you where all this came from really quickly, and you can also access this file on my Google Drive. Perhaps you know how to filter this, but here we go to filter. And maybe I'm interested in organizing them alphabetically, so I can see the journals, can find them a little bit easier perhaps. And then maybe it's also nice to organize them by category after that. So there we go. This is sort of a neater way perhaps to look at it. We can see that it has gone into 5 categories, and these categories are based on the ISO description of these journals. All right, so they've been organized into basic science, infectious disease, medicine and pharmacology, multidisciplinary science, and vet med and zoology. So one of the features on this kind of corpus linguistics is to get a word list, and this just shows you the words that are used the most often. So on here, they count the total words as 1.76 million. The being the most common word, which it basically always is. And we have to go down to number 15 before we see a word like cells, which is the highest kind of unique word for this corpora. Notice that there is a lot of sort of junk in here, like et al. And fig. and lots of letters because there's so many gene sequences and proteins and things like that. So that actually ends up accounting for quite a bit of the word count. Okay, anyway, let's get into it, and I'm going to try to describe the way that I believe my students can use this the most effective way. So often the first tool to use for a search might be concordance. All right, so we'll start right here. I was going over a manuscript with a student. We come across a sentence in his manuscript. The white pulp was mild atrophy. So I knew that was a bit wrong, but I had trouble getting a verb to suggest it to the student. When I saw the white pulp was mild atrophy, I suggested the white pulp underwent mild atrophy, the white pulp experienced mild atrophy. So I tried to think of my own substitutions first, but I didn't really have confidence because it's not my field and I wasn't exactly sure. So what I'm going to do is just type in atrophy here and let's see what other people are using. Okay, so the settings are actually on the default. Since my computer screen is a bit wide, I'm going to go ahead and increase the window size, and I'm also going to move the file size over because I like to get this information so I can see who is writing what. So let me just do that one more time so we can get some more data. So here we go. We have 26 examples of atrophy, and I'm going to try to look for verbs that are used in a way that kind of it's used for mine. Now my student is actually a pathologist, so I'm kind of going to look for a veterinary pathology one first and see if that relates to ours. So the skeletal muscle demonstrated mild atrophy. Hey, that's actually pretty good right away because our original sentence, remember, was the white pulp was mild atrophy. So demonstrated seems like a good candidate. But this is just one writer, although it is from the US. So perhaps dependable, but just because one person uses it this way doesn't mean it's perfect for us. So if we want to be careful, we might want to check for a few more. So do we see any other overexpression? Well, that's not really a verb, is it? We're looking for verbs here. Yeah, I'm not quite finding what I want. Okay, mediating function in muscle atrophy. Mediating? Not sure that's what we want. Blocks atrophy. Well, no, we're not talking about blocking. Plays an important role. No, that's not what we want. Associated with atrophy. Okay. The white pulp was associated with mild atrophy. Not sure that's probably what we want. Ooh, characterized by. That's the changes in the cone pathway were characterized by an atrophy. That might work. So I'm just kind of going through here. And you know what? I just thought maybe we should use a different form of atrophy because sometimes if you're having a writing problem, it helps to change the type of word that you're using. So atrophy is a noun, but let's delete that Y right here and put an asterisk, and maybe we'll get some more forms of the word. Okay, so we get atrophic. I was actually looking for the verb. I thought we might find atrophied, but yeah, it seems like nobody has used that. So we've increased our range, we've increased the frequency by about 7 from the previous search. And we see that some people are using atrophic, but I'm not really sure that's what we're looking for. The remaining adrenal cortex was compressed and atrophic. What if we said the white pulp was mildly atrophic? Could be an option. So, as a teacher, I can't really tell my students exactly what's the best fit. It's really up to each writer on their own to determine what's the best. But I think by looking at other people's writing, you can lead yourself to choosing the best words. Let's try to find out whether our two verbs that we talked about earlier, demonstrated and characterized, would fit for what we want. So let's go ahead and do a search for characterized and see what kind of words come up for this. Okay, so we have a lot more data for characterized. We have 315 hits. So I could go through and read this, but it might not be the most efficient use of my time. So let me show you another powerful tool on here, and this is the clusters engrams right here. So I'll click on here, and let's check characterized. Now the default cluster size is minimum of 2 and a maximum of 2. I usually just increase this to 4, just in case some interesting things pop up. You'll notice that the search term position is by default on the left, and so that means it's going to show us the cluster size, the clusters of words that come after characterized. And that's usually what we want when we're searching for verbs. When you're searching for nouns, it's sometimes nice to switch it to the on the right. But okay, we're doing the verbs right now. Okay, wow, so almost half of the uses of characterized are characterized by. That's 145 out of 315 uses is characterized by. So that might be a good place to start. At least it cuts down our search range by half. But still, going through 145 is not necessarily the best way to go about it, I think, because it's kind of a lot. But, you know, let's just see. Characterized by increased cardiac output. Okay, characterized by pathology. Characterized by... Oh, okay, here's some diseases. That's kind of like what we were talking about earlier, by characterized by atrophy. Characterized by hyperplasia, that's kind of like atrophy. Characterized by damage, okay, so it seems perhaps promising. Characterized by symptoms, no, characterized by sex. Okay, well, it seems possible. Okay, so that's characterized. Let's do a search for demonstrated and see what we get. Oh, wow, so we have a lot of cases of demonstrated. Demonstrated that is the most common. Demonstrated that in the presence. Demonstrated that the micro... You know what, though? Our sentence is the white pulp was mild atrophy, so the white pulp demonstrated mild atrophy. We're not talking about that, are we? So perhaps we're looking for maybe aren't we? Like demonstrated a mild atrophy, perhaps? Okay, demonstrated a decrease, demonstrated a pattern, demonstrated a high level, demonstrated a sensitivity. So I'm not really seeing a disease. We don't see demonstrated a disease here. Demonstrated a distribution, demonstrated a maximum, demonstrated an increase, demonstrated a link. Yeah, effect, demonstrated an association, demonstrated a correlation. So interesting. So that early example that we saw, it was from pathology, wasn't it? Oh, interesting. So here's another pathology. Demonstrated a high degree of necrosis. So that's actually kind of what we're looking for, but most authors are actually not using demonstrated that way. So that seems to be coming from this one paper, because this is also the guy who demonstrated the mild atrophy earlier. It's here, so it seems like we could say demonstrated a mild atrophy, but it sort of seems like characterized is a little bit more clear. Okay, so we've done a search for demonstrated in the whole corpus, and we've gotten enough data that maybe it's worthwhile for us to search a subcorpus. If you have plenty of data, it may actually be better. So let me show you this for the last thing today. I'm just going to clear all tools and files, and I'm going to open a new one. Instead of opening the entire corpus, I'm just going to search a subcorpus. So let's imagine that now, instead of being a pathologist, maybe I'm a researcher in the basic sciences. So I'm going to open the basic science subcorpus. I'm going to hit Control A and Enter and load this one on here. So basic science, if you remember from here, basic science is the cell series, biochemistry, and some other things like that. So let's just see if we get anything else that's interesting. We'll start with characterized. So, characterized by, now we have 46 examples. So, okay. Characterized by damage, characterized by hyperplasia. Okay, these are some of the things we saw earlier, so let's just scroll down to get some different sources. Characterized by strands, characterized by expression, characterized by deposition, fibrosis, that's good. I mean, that's a disease. That's kind of what we're looking for. Characterized by the existence, characterized by a relationship, characterized by deformity. Okay, so I'm starting to see a pattern. I mean, characterized is sort of flexible, isn't it? I mean, you can be characterized by an increase or by a loss. You can be characterized by a relationship, but you can also be characterized by a physical deformity or a physical disease or something like that. Whereas, just to check the basic science for demonstrated, we're going to just do demonstrated demonstrated a dimerization, demonstrated an efficiency, demonstrated response, an advantage, enrichment, decrease, stability, ratio, decrease, decline. Yeah, so demonstrate a movement, demonstrate a reduction or an increase, or demonstrate a process or comparison. We don't really demonstrate a disease in most of these cases. So even though in our original search in a pathology journal we saw demonstrate atrophy, it's probably, at least based on the language used by most of the other people, it's maybe not the best way to use it. So okay, let me stop there and I'll come back to explain more in another video if this has proved helpful for you.